Hello and welcome to Film Ireland Presents. I'm Associate Editor Gemma Creagh, and in this episode we'll be celebrating the Cork International Film Festival. This podcast is sponsored by Crewless, the easiest way to hire Ireland's best freelance crew. Their brand new update helps you stay revenue compliant while hiring freelancers, protects your producers with automatically generated contracts, and lets you pay and get paid securely on the platform, so you've no more keeping track of all your invoices or chasing the unpaid ones, which is very, very handy. So make sure to visit crewless.ie to learn more and get started today. In a little while, I'll be chatting with three very talented filmmakers about their short films, which are screening at the Cork International Film Festival. But first, I'll be joined by Aurélie Godet, who's the Director of Programming at the festival, which runs from the 7th of November to Sunday, the 17th of November. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for the invitation.
It's a very exciting festival this year. I was just wondering if you could just give us a little bit of background about what you guys have been working on behind the scenes.
Yeah, so we've prepared this event for months. Some films we invited in back in March, and before even I arrived, I joined the team in April. And so the first things I did was, for example, looking at the program from last year, not only in terms of the films, which was completely approve of my predecessor's work, but also the program structure. What I try to do is the slight reorganization I did and renaming of some of the strands is mostly aimed at hopefully bringing clarity and tell viewers what the films have to offer, the kind of relationship they seek to establish with them.
Amazing, amazing. And okay, can you talk to us about the lineup? What are we looking to see over the next couple of days?
So one of the things that's very clear for people who, for example, are want to follow the local Irish creativity and indeed the industry having quite a momentum these days, these are, clearly identified. They have their own category there and own competition. And the Irish competition is running in the first days, but we also have a number of Irish films, not only out of competition in that strand we call Irish Voices, and also in shorts programs. And then the international films are either so in that strand called World Tour, which is really, the most awarded films, the ones where there is an expectation with the most obvious and irresistible universal appeal. And so that's films from all around the world and with fiction and documentaries together, which is one of the changes I applied to the program, where they were separated. And I thought that doesn't really apply to the fact that these days there's a lot of films that are in between, or fictions that have a lot of personal, input from the filmmaker. And so actually, starting on Monday, we have the European competition. Spirit of the festival is European productions only. They are first and second features, so you could call them filmmakers of the future, except that I think they're already pretty damn good. I don't know that they're filmmakers of the future. They're very much filmmakers of today. It's just that it's their first or second feature-length films, and they're the most talented filmmakers working in Europe. One per country. I wish we had more, but you have a good sample of stories from, Europe is our continent. They're our cousins.
And talk to me in terms of what's your favorite? Like what is your kind of favorite thing to program, your favorite thing to sit down and watch?
I am insatiable. You have a lot of programmers telling you that, but it's true that it's a passion, and I just I'm fed with by the diversity, and I do believe that it's very much a lively art form with filmmakers who keep finding new ways to engage the spectator. And I'm the first test, if you wish. So I tend to follow my instinct, in fact. You can apply all sorts of criteria, and indeed, the program is supposed to have some form of balance and diversity. But at one point, you gotta follow your instinct as well, and I keep being surprised at how new ideas, and also, just as I said, new ways to engage with the audience these people find. There's a lot of of talent out there. And if you look, for example, at my strand that I call Momentum, um, you have a lot of choice in there, 17 films, kind of half fiction and half documentaries, with on subjects that are they're going to have an impact on you. That's my promise to the spectator. It's whether some are rather playful, some are very serious. I mean, there is a 3 hour long documentary on the history of the Israel-Palestine conflict, which I think is absolute must see. That's on Thursday or Friday the 15th. And but whatever the kind of film there, the story, you have a French fiction on the 15th in his own image that is about separatist violence in Corsica. We have a lovely message from the filmmaker for that screening. And so they're very, very different films, but they're bound to have an impact on the spectator, durable impact, I believe.
And in terms of industry events as well, what's sort of
Yeah.
lined up for like what can kind of people go and expect to see?
Yeah, this is 2 full days of really interesting conversations. So on the Thursday, the 14th is a first take with yeah, a number of that's I guess for young people who have ambitions to work in the industry, and they can have really concrete, examples detailed by producers, by writers. It gives you a really concrete view on how things work. The backstage of some of these films that are in the program, in fact, including, for example, Irish co-production that is in the Irish competition, September Says. We have a conversation with the producers on the 14th. So something really concrete. To see the film, they can make a link and understand how this came to be. And on Friday the 15th is a dog day. So for people particularly interested in documentary filmmaking, and that's going to be fantastic. I actually take part in one of the conversations. We're going to talk about curating documentary in particular with two programmers who are members of the documentary jury. And we also have a conversation with the filmmaker and producer of the documentary gala, The Making of a Japanese, which is screening that night, Friday the 15th. And this should be really interesting because we called it so Japanese yet so universal. This is a film that's specifically about Japanese culture and how what in the educational system in Japan makes that society function as it is when these kids are adults, and where all of that comes from, these behavioral traits that are very specific to the Japanese, and yet it's something so appealing for anybody around the world. I think that when you make something really personal, generally there's a chance that people are going to relate to and actually makes it very much universal. And the filmmaker is half Japanese, half British, I believe, or American. Sorry, she will tell us. She will correct me. They're coming from New York to see us for just barely 24 hours. We're really grateful.
Yeah, that's what is it? That's a long trek and a good bit of jet lag to come to the People's Republic, which is very exciting. If it was my first ever Cork Film Festival, what advice would you give me if I'd never been down there before?
I say take the time to browse the program. I believe it's part of the experience. I apologize if there's too much choice. I hope it's not overwhelming. I hope it's exciting on the contrary. We put up as many trailers as possible. I think most of the films by now have their trailer on the film's pages on the website. So I have fun watching trailers. It's part of, the expectation building up, and trigger some desire there, and yeah, to identify the films that are made for you. There's really something for everybody, and I'm not saying like just something that you're going to enjoy, something that you're going to really love, that's going to talk to you. I'm not saying, it's going to change your life, but that's something that's possible with film. There are some films I believe in there where there's a before and after seeing them, and if you have kids, I think there's some really unmissable ones in there. If they can read subtitles, I really recommend to watch Savages, which is on the last Sunday. It's in French language, so yeah, it would work for 5-year-olds, but they need to be a little bit older here to be able to read. It's absolutely wonderful. Not only is it beautiful, moving, funny, but it's about it's empowering in terms of taking care of the environment, and it's just and parents will absolutely enjoy it as well. One of the best ones. And also, if you can't come to Cork City, we have a program that's available for anybody in Ireland. Not only is the online selection Irish premieres, very good, half dozen films there that you can rent and watch anywhere from anywhere in Ireland. And also, as you said earlier, within the industry days, we have Dog Day online as well. So the idea is really to offer a taste of SIF if you can't be with us in those venues.
That's so exciting. Oh my God. I'd say there's so much to prep for going down. So thank you so much for chatting with us. That's yeah, we're in the mood now to watch some films.
Come to dance with us on Saturday night after watch the film Photogenico, French film at Triskel, and we'll dance on their music afterwards. It's the music that we have on the festival trailer.
Oh, even better. That's a full social experience then. Fabulous. Thanks so much.
See you there. Bye
Bye.
bye.
So I am delighted to be joined now by Julia Wysocka about her film Skirmish, Freddie Leyden about his fabulous and quirky film Farmers, and Sam Ahern about their beautiful film Night Glances. So thank you everyone for joining us.
Thanks, Gemma.
Hello, thanks, Gemma.
We were just saying before we started recording that it's just like a really wonderful selection of films. They're so energetic. The voices are so strong. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and call on each of you out because this is audio only, and I'll ask you to say your name and to tell us a little bit about your film. So I'll start with you, Sam.
My name is Sam Ahern. I'm a writer-director, and my short is called Night Glances.
And give us your logline / elevator pitch for it.
So, Night Glances is about two young women, Nicole and Erica, who are celebrating the end of their leaving cert at a house party with some friends. And there is a sort of unspoken love and a lot of chemistry between the two of them. And I think Nicole is further along recognizing that than Erica is. And over the course of the night, as sort of other crushes turn up and drink and drugs are consumed, the truth sort of comes out, and there's a sort of like sweet ending to all of it in the end.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And Freddie.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Freddie Leyden. I'm director and co-writer of Farmers. The film's called Farmers, exclamation mark, question mark. And it's an atmospheric, subversive film, which depicts that after an Irish farmer's breakdown and death, his friends struggle to express grief. His ghost's appearance at an estate family auction finally releases their repressed emotions in unexpected ways.
And for people listening, whatever you think it is from that, it's not that. It's brilliant. I have so many questions, about your process, Freddie, that we'll get to in the end. So
yeah. Trying to be enigmatic with that film, definitely.
Yeah.
So it's hard to sum up, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, but tonally, it's very like I don't think I've seen anything like it. You know?
Oh, great!
It's wild.
Great, I'm delighted.
Great. And Julia.
Hi, Gemma. So my name is Julia Wysocka. I'm the director of this short film Skirmish that's going to be premiering in Cork International Film Festival. And Skirmish is about a young woman named Annie who lives in rural Ireland. And she is desperate to get her ex-girlfriend back, so she attempts a cowboy themed night where everything goes wrong.
I love it. And I love this as well. You've your flawed female protagonist who's struggling, who's kind of like really at a crossroads. I think you captured this so well. You were working on someone else's writing. Is that
Yeah.
right? That you're okay. So tell me a little bit about the development process. Were you handed a script? Were you kind of selected? This was filmed as part of IADT's
Yeah.
final year program?
Yes, it's a graduate film. So when we get into fourth year after doing our like 4 years, we get selected to direct. So there's like 6 directors this year. Well, last year it was at least. And we get selected. So all the directors came with their own scripts that they wrote, and I'm not a writer. So I was like, I really want to direct, but I want a script. Like, someone give me a script. And thankfully, my friend Lucille Carolyn is a brilliant writer. She majored in film writing. So she was like, I actually have something, like, let's collab. You're going to do the film. We both kind of get a win-win. And so she gave me the first draft, which is completely different to what it is now. We got the first draft and we're kind of pitching between each other. And I loved the story. Her inspiration behind a lot of it is just insane. It's because it's a blend of all like stories. I've told her her own story her dad told her about like rural Ireland and his friend who basically got in like a standoff with these guys in a pub and escaped through a window. Um, so it was just a blend of all these stories. So the first draft was very different from what it is now. So I'm glad I got on board early on, whereas like the first draft, because the one we actually filmed, I'm pretty sure it's like the 15th or 16th draft.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a lot of months. And so we pitched it and we pitched that, oh, like Julia's going to direct, Lucille wrote it. Um, and I think it was a lovely collab. I prefer working with writers. I have a short film, Good Grief, that was in like Richard Harris Festival and some other ones I can't remember now. Uh, I'm kind of stressed if you can't tell. Um, and yeah, I also got a writer to write it and I directed it just because I think personally it helps me to like, if I get a script, I have to analyze it from the beginning to the end. I go through every single word. What does the character mean? I asked the writer. So me and Lucy would spend hours just sitting together being like, okay, in this, like, what is this line of dialogue? Why did the character say it this way? And then she'd explain her point of view. I had my own notes and I was like, I think it's actually this way. So I had to break it inside and out. So by the time we were filming, I knew the entire script. I was like saying it along with the actors. I was like, yeah, okay, I get it. I get the intentions of everything. Yeah, I don't know. I do know it. I don't know why I'm saying this, but I know that it was just such a nice process. I think everyone should at least once work with a writer, just get insights the way they see it too. Oh, beautiful.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's it. That kind of character driven story as well. That's like it's so when you were talking about intention, there is such a like there's so much in subtext in your film.
I think so. There was a lot of little signs, and like I said, the script changed so much. And at first, I panicked. I was like, "What if it's too subtle?" And I was like, "Oh my God, people won't get it. Like, why is she doing this?" But then I put a lot of trust in my cast. Loved the casting process. Um, and then when I got the actors in, and we were doing multiple rehearsals, but at first we were just talking about the script, and they're like, "Oh, I get it. I get it. I get why the character is doing it." I was like, yes, it's the biggest reward when someone's like, yeah, I get why we're doing this. No other questions. Well, no, they can have questions and it's nice. Also, a lot of the actors brought their own insights and their own stories into it, which was lovely because not only did we have like 15 drafts of the script, we also did a lot of improv in the film. I don't think people realize. So there's a lot of scenes where dialogue actually has improv, right? I was just like, you know the scenes, we rehearsed it 1,000 times. Now just say it like you would say it.
That's fascinating. I'm definitely going to come back to that because I want to talk about working with actors, definitely. But we'll stick to the writing process for the moment. Sam, can you tell me about like basically where the idea came from and then
Yeah.
getting like I love that it's crowdfunded as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote a version of Night Glances, I think, in 2022. That was like kind of much more ambitious in terms of locations and an even larger cast. And submitted for funding and it didn't get picked up. So At this point, I had started working with Kieran Sheridan in Como Collective. So Como is just a collective set up by me and Sherry. Sorry, that's Kieran's nickname is Sherry. So and I guess with the intention that like we wanted to create work that spoke to us both, and we wanted to bring in collaborators who were at a similar stage of development in their career and their sort of artistic vision. And so we made a short film called Late Bloomers together, which was done on like a micro budget. That did pretty well. It got into Gaze and it got into Belfast as well. And a few other festivals. And then Night Glances was, I suppose, really the version of Late Bloomers that we wanted to kind of step up to, because Late Bloomers had kind of a similar story about two women falling in love at the center of it, but was you know told over the course of one day, whereas this was like, in one location, but with six actors over the course of one night, and we shot it over 4 days. So it was quite a step up. And we had about 1K funding from Fingal Arts Office. And then we crowdfunded about another 2K, and then myself, Sherry, and Tom Pierce, who collaborated on the project as well from development stage, had edited Late Boomers and was DIT on Night Glances. And we all put in money ourselves to make it, and essentially asked all the crew to work for free because they were all friends, and like some amazing people involved, like Alba Fernandez was the DP, Sergio Say did the production design, and a whole host of other amazing HODs. But to get back to the script, I suppose, very much inspired by just my sort of queer coming age experience of like I came out like later in life, and just like kind of like being a bit older, looking back about these like women I would like have these very intense obsessive relationships with, and like never really putting two and two together, because the way in which I looked at attraction was sort of quite innocent, I think, around women. And I think the story is quite sincere. Um, but there's moments for fantasy to take place, and there's a sort of eroticism that happens through that imagery, and the whole film takes place through the lens of a memory, really. When the film opens, we can hear Nicole narrating about this sort of like perfect moment in time, like looking at her memories with Erica through this lens of nostalgia, and that's why there's a sort of like voiceover and dreamy quality to the opening. But then once we're in the story, we see it's kind of like messy and chaotic, like things are when you're 18, and you're just, maybe I think particularly for Nicole, she's a character who's always been sort of like the more composed of the two, but it is possibly more in tune with her feelings than Erica is. And then Erica, who kind of confronts her feelings of attraction to Nicole later, is the more feeling one, who is more confused by how she wants to act upon those impulses. And so they create quite an interesting dynamic then. Um, they're sort of good good opposites to each other, and also kindred spirits. And then when it came to like, rather than just telling a story about these two characters, I wanted to play into that, that feeling you have you're at a house party and you're younger, and you kind of fancy everyone, and you're like, well, like I definitely like this person more, but maybe I'll kiss this person over here, and like, oh no, maybe I fucked it now with the person that I really like. So Nicole and Erica both have kind of boy crushes at the party, who are very sweet guys in a lot of ways, but there's definitely like a feeling of gender dynamics to the whole thing. Like gender plays a really big role in the story. And um I guess like there are points where I think maybe a lot of audiences will pick up on kind of like the toxic side of the boys, and then kind of be like turned against them. But I really didn't want you to walk away from the film feeling like the boys were like the villains of the story at all. Like they might say the wrong thing, but like ultimately have quite pure intentions, or like, the kind of alpha male energy to Colin, for example, is a sort of bravado that he's picked up that isn't anything that isn't representative of the loyalty and the love that he has for his friends. So there's a real feeling of unity by the end of the film, that like they're accepting of their friends falling in love, and like, the sort of emotions going everywhere. And then you kind of have these two characters, Fiachra and Saoirse, who sort of balance out the different tones of the script then, because Colm is this sort of like sweet, goofy, like McLovin character who, even though he gets bullied for being kind of like the nerdy one now, is definitely going to be the cool one when he's 25, and Saoirse is like the deadpan, spicy one who's like calling people on their bullshit, but is also like much more able to smoke her weed than anyone else is, So it's a story about a group as much as and the dynamics that allow you to become yourself, as much as it is about this sort of romance between these two women.
And that's beautiful that like all of these smaller side characters do have a warmer arc and aren't reduced down to like the stereotypes that serve to push the story forward. And I think that's really warm. It's 20 minutes, but it doesn't feel 20 minutes. You're taken on a journey. It's warm, and the aesthetics are just absolutely stunning. In terms of drafts and getting this to the point where you're filming it, was there any changes that took place?
Yeah, I mean, there was like quite a lot. So the first draft was like, the party was like outside in like a field, and there was a bonfire, which was like a whole other budget and safety risks and all that kind of stuff. And there was like other storylines for Nicole that I kind of felt were like complicating it, or there were storylines that weren't my place to tell. Like Nicole is played by Anna Flood Gomez, and I really wanted there originally to be like, I suppose, an element of if she's a queer person of color, how does that impact the dynamics? And originally, I was collaborating with a poet named Gemma Creagh and Maddie, but because we didn't get the funding, there wasn't really the resources to like ask someone to give up, a whole year of their time to this project. And I was fortunate that Sherry was the person who was able to give me that time as a producer. Um, so like I had shown him a draft of the script or pitched it to him. And then we just like Sherry has this great studio at home, because he's also a sound designer, sound editor, mixer, composer, and like we just like sit in his studio and like look at like Smashing Pumpkins videos, or like look poems that I had shown him by Olivia Gatwood about like the female experience and the queer experience and gender dynamics, and we kind of shared like our own like impressions of growing up and the pressure on us. Like I really wanted to do a mosh scene. Like there's a mosh scene in it where Colm and Fiach and Sean are all like, headbanging together, and like Fiach's really going for it and is kind of a bit demented, but like eventually they like butt heads, but it's all a bit homoerotic, and like it just shows like the heightened gender performance of everything going on. So like things like that got to really develop under both of us, which is such a lovely thing to do. And I guess when you're a writer director and you have a producer that really wants to go the whole journey and spend like so many script meetings together, and so many like shot list meetings together before you've even brought on the rest of the team, like you end up being able to articulate like a sense of visual style that then comes out in the script, and that is really helpful, I think, for HODs. And then when you have, a DP like Alba and a production designer like Saoirse, like you are just blessed with people who will just like appreciate your vision and how personal it is, but then bring a whole other layer to it as well. So yeah, just really really fortunate to have good collaborators at different stages of the journey, really.
Brilliant. That's fabulous. And Freddie, so you co-wrote on this. So talk to me about like where did the idea come from? How many drafts did it get to do before we saw it on the page? And then I do think because it's such an unusual script, like that written on a page might not necessarily translate to someone reading it who's not in your mind. Like, what's the phase then to get it from that to like a storyboarding or, to explain it to somebody else?
Yeah, sure. So in Farmers, there's quite a few things going on that are non-verbal. It's quite a lot of the film is about not speaking or not listening to others. And the original idea for Farmers began as a dance, like began actually as a dance film. I work a lot with dance. That's my background, working in the art world, music world, and dance world. And I'd spent the preceding maybe 3 or 4 years working with a lot of artists who use performance or movement or the body to tell kind of nuanced stories about where they came from. And I really loved doing that. And I was really humbled by the people I got to work with and the stories they were able to tell. But it kind of left me with this feeling that maybe there's something I can tell personally from where I'm from. And I'm from a country road and just outside of Ennis in County Clare. And sometimes that can feel unworthy of this kind of treatment of movement and dance. And how do you cast that? So but I really wanted to do it when I came home after being away from where my family live for 2 years during the pandemic. I had to stay away. There was this kind of really fertile kind of moment of reassessing my country road. And my family aren't farmers, but I'm surrounded by farmers, and I know these men very, very well. And I know guys who grew up with me who became farmers. And just the visual struck me first. So at first it was just like, I want to do a contemporary dance or avant-garde movement style film with casting it with these characters and trying to get it as authentic as possible. But then as the project went on, it just kind of I just wanted to do something more narrative. Other projects got in front of it, and then the story kind of grew in my mind, and then it became a story about men and a particular type of men, and and then farming men and working men and farmers, and this kind of idea of I saw a farmer down my road, and it's almost an identity, it's a label, and this kind of idea that a farmer is just a farmer that stuck in my mind. And then I wrote a song, because I write songs, and the song was called The Farmer's Song, and it just gave voice to this idea of this man who saw essentially me walking down the road, who'd grown up and was able to live a creative life, and tried to reach out to me, and then being rebuffed. That was the idea. Just because a farmer is a farmer. When you see a farmer, you don't imagine a farmer would have interest in anything potentially artistic or sophisticated, and certainly not, the art world and stuff. And that song then became a script.
There's actually like 2 whole feature documentaries about sheep farmers who are also artists. There is something really about like being in the wild and that like physical space, and even like laboring, things like being a carpenter and stuff. There's a real like manual craft and an art form to that. Do you know? Like
Totally.
and there's like only kind of one step away from like, the trades versus sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
Like when is it like and like even that sort of thing is coveted. And I don't know, I'm like I would think of it more like I do see as well, and I think what was very interesting is the observed masculinity of that, but it was interesting because I just hadn't seen that visually before.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I think that's it. And that's it. There's not one thing. I think there's a lot of films globally and in Ireland about a lot of films about farmers and the depicting farmers. And I've heard about that documentary you're talking about, which I can't wait to see that actually. So in real life, I know lots of these amazing, for lack of a better word, country people, because it's men and women. I was just using men as a shorthand to make an effort to make a point. But actually, in reality, that's not my lived experience. These men are very nuanced. And then this idea of like, I was annoyed about films depicting often mental health issues about men in rural areas, and they always depict the farming as what's depressing. The farming is depressing. They're always slopping out, and it's always these long shots. And this is no criticism of any film about farming. Those are true and authentic. But it always seemed to be a shorthand for that's what was causing the depression. And I wanted to just say, it's actually people who aren't farmers, our impression of them can stifle them, just labeling them as farmers, and that people can be two things. There's no criticism of farming. It's like people are two things, just as we're all many things. And that was the main point, that if there is an instigation of drama in farmers, it's the person almost depicting me who's able to be wearing GAA clothes, who's a musician walking down the road, happily listening to his earphones, rebuffing this farmer as just a farmer who just wanted to compliment him on his music. And that was and then to put in a wider context, I'll get wider and wider. It really is about people who aren't farmers, and it's me being from Clare with my thick Clare accent, going to London and working in the art world, and this people maybe complimenting my work, on email, and they're saying, "Oh, right, this is quite sophisticated, for lack of a better word," and then they hear my accent and it's like, "Do you like Guinness? Where's your family from?" And this kind of reduction of labels. So really, it's not about farmers. I wouldn't like to say I'm speaking for farmers. It's about labels and the labels we put on each other, and like it's that thing. We're all a farmer to someone, for lack of a better word.
Of course. And look, I want to say as well, like, so the process of getting that made and getting that like across the line in terms of like explaining to people what it is, because like again, it's so distinct tonally. Like, was that funded? Did you
Self-funded? Self-funded. I've been self-funded. Yeah, I've been working on it for quite a long time. I've been working with growing my team of people that I work with, these amazing producers, and just an expanded team of HODs that we work together a lot on various projects. And I guess even the composer, I've been working with him since 2015, and then the cinematographer, we've worked for 8 years. The producers, we've made lots of films together. And to be honest with you, I just saved up a lot of money, and I said, I'm going to put it into this. This is what I want to do. This is a statement I want to make. I'm not going to do another one, self-funded again, but
well, without money,
hopefully, yeah.
Like now you get the funding.
Yeah, hopefully I can get the funding, but totally self-funded, yeah.
Gosh, okay, so that was my thing, was like in getting people on board. So you would have had people that you would have collaborated in different creative ways, and it was just pulling them in for that. So then in terms of We'll go to casting, and then we'll move back through casting. So we'll stay on the theme of working with actors. I think something very specific about this and about casting people that had a look and an energy that is authentic to that world, but yet were able to employ the movement to convey like a very complex set of ideas. Was that difficult? Like even the facial tics and things like that, they were very detailed.
It was so important. And the last thing I wanted was it to feel like I brought some contemporary dances over to Ireland to dance dressed like farmers. So no, there was long decks about the way farmers wear hats. They always have a very particular way of wearing beanie hats that look like they pulled them up from the back seat of the car, and it might be their children's hat, and they just put it in a jaunty angle. And then the way they actually look and carry themselves. So the casting was, I had Anya O'Sullivan did an amazing job. She's an amazing casting agent, and she really blew me away. And I think she touches on a lot of productions across Ireland, and she's from Limerick. And I think she just has this connection to a lot of these actors. And what's amazing is the 7 main men, 3 or 4 were actually farmers, but they're all actors. They all have some acting background. They're either working actors or do acting part-time. They're all actors, but some of them are actually farmers too, and they're all above a certain age. And 5 had never done movement before or dance. And I had 2 men who were amazing, Raymond and Michael, who were 2 of the men. Raymond is a very well-known performer across Ireland. He actually does movement at Trinity, and then Michael studied at Lecoq. And having all these men over a certain age, bringing them into a rehearsal space to do it's really serious contemporary dance. And actually they helped, much like what Julia said about like having them bring their own stories. Some of the movement comes from them to express their own versions of grief. So it was all workshopped. Having the 2 guys who have to work with dance all the time, and then having the guys who were just doing it for the first time, they bolstered each other and they looked after each other within the group. The group became a very tight-knit group very quickly. And to be honest with you, it would make you very emotional to see some of these men who you'd never imagine moving that way and emoting that way move it. It was very, very emotional, and they really, I'm so indebted to them for really going to where they did. It's hard when you're talking about something people haven't seen, but it's very, very upsetting some of the things the men have to do. But they really trusted in the film. They felt like it was their story too. And that's the funny thing. You can look at a certain man and the way he looks, and if he looks like a 65-year-old man, he looks like a 65-year-old man. But these men have artist souls in them, so they really wanted to tell this story. So yeah, I was very, very lucky to have the cast we did have.
Brilliant. And Sam?
I just want to say, like, that dance piece is so moving, Freddie. Like,
Oh, thank you, Sam.
yeah, and just I don't like I've seen Raymond's work before, but also just like I could feel the sense of leadership from him in like particularly that last dance piece, and but also in his like face and his expression of like really going there, which is like obviously comes from his background as a very experienced performer, but then to see it like ripple out to um these other performers, and obviously you created that space for them to feel safe in and to go there, which is really remarkable. It was very moving. So I just wanted to say
Thank you
that.
so much, Sam. I really appreciate it. I should, just as you were
Yeah.
speaking, Sam, you remind me, I should mention Alexandra Green, who's the
Mm.
choreographer, who
Yeah.
without her, she had this amazing, even though she's my age, she's younger than these men. She had this amazing way of being quite maternal around them, and these men who were much, much older felt very safe with her, and she created this. They just felt looked after. So I really appreciate you saying that, Sam. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Sam, working with actors and casting, did at what stage did you kind of start bringing people on board?
I think like we got the script to a certain stage. Like we shot in August 23, and I think we started casting maybe in May, and it was like, okay, we're shooting in August, we need to get going. But myself and Sherry did all the casting ourselves just because of budget. I know Anya, who's amazing and would have absolutely rung her up to be like, please help. But three of the actors were people that we had previously known. Um, so Leah Ho, who played Saoirse, was the lead in Late Bloomers. And I kind like I hadn't intended to write the role for her, but as I was writing and I was like, no one can play this better than Leah. So that was just like a lovely natural thing, and I asked her and she said yes, because she's a very good friend, and
The chemistry was amazing, Sam, between
thank
the two
you.
leads. That
Yeah.
seemed so authentic. The actual, just those scenes, the love scenes. I thought that was really, really tenderly done.
That's,
There was tender and it was very intimate. How do you like direct something that is so kind of like in some space? I think at one stage one of your leads is she's doing this
Mhm.
dance and it's beautiful and she's so powerful in that moment, but there's a real vulnerability
Yeah.
to that. And again, the intimacy, like when they're being so physically
Mhm.
intimate, like is that something like that's a discussion beforehand? Is that something that you guys kind of like rehearse before you film?
Yeah, I mean, certainly like what we did. So we cast in kind of May, and then we had rehearsals in July. Um, and the cast were really generous. Like they gave a lot of time, and I'd send them the full script at this point, so they knew that there was like scenes of intimacy and like making sure that they're comfortable with that. Um, and also like I think I sent them the lookbook as well because I wanted them to feel like they could understand the world, like especially with that dance scene, like you're asking, a young woman to like perform quite seductively, and you want to make sure that they feel like they're getting into a project with people who care about the way that it looks and feels, and that that they feel safe. But in rehearsals, like we did a group table read together, so everyone kind of got a chance to get to know each other, and then would break off. Enya, who played Erica, and Anna, who played Nicole, into their own scenes, and the same for Rob and Anna. And I was really fortunate. I'd done an intimacy coordination workshop, or like introduction to intimacy coordination with Ita O'Brien. And so like that doesn't mean I'm an intimacy coordinator at all, but it gives me some language. And I realized that the way that Ita works is like to create a sort of dance with moves, and that those moves add up to intimacy, and there are steps you can take to like ensure that people are comfortable being like, like they consent to like these different steps that lead to these moments of intimacy. And then we break down the intentions and the emotions behind those. So that the kiss scene between between Nicole and Erica in the bath was something like we had rehearsed in beforehand, but then just creating like a very safe space on set. They felt really good going into that scene. And then for Erica, so there's a moment where Nicole is really high and she walks into the room and she sees Erica doing this like sexy dance with an orange. And it's kind of like she's giving Nicole the orange as though it's like the body of Christ, but it's like it's the gay body of Christ or whatever. So you are gay now. So it's like really fun, and there's like, but she's dancing seductively, but like it's very obvious that this scene is very camp. Like the whole sitting room is taken over with like leaves, and like Saoirse did an amazing job of like making it look really like full to the brim with kind of floral or natural imagery. And then Alba and the gaffer Sean Smith created this like beautifully like heightened orangey red room, and there was like beautiful blues in it, so like you're already creating like a fantastical space. And then for Enya, like we like Anna is a dancer, so we kind of came up with a natural dance for her that would kind of suit um her body and her movements. And she felt comfortable with that. And you just kind of clear the set of as many people as possible. And they just the two of them had great chemistry from the get-go. Like there was a natural trust there. And like same with the mosh scene, like you're also asking people to like bump up against each other and like throw each other in the ground and stuff like that. So we did like some improv games and stuff like that just to kind of get the cast all comfortable around each other. And then like the group scenes when they all come together, like I've never had to do so little work behind a monitor ever. It's just like sat back and watched them do their thing. Like they were incredible. Like the scenes in the kitchen and the scenes in the sitting room where the six of them are together. Like I think Fiacre as well, who played Colm, I think this amazing background in has done some clowning and is a great physical performer. Had a way of like physically tying the room together in each of those group scenes. And Cormac, who played Fiach, also it was his first time on set. Like I met um Cormac doing improv classes like a year beforehand, and it's just like incredibly naturally funny and sweet. And um just like yeah, just like a natural on set. And so I think like having a performer like Fiacre there to just be like, you're doing great. Like, and then also bully him in the next take, but then check in on him and be like, I'm really sorry, I hope you're okay. Like, I didn't mean any of that. We just got really, really fortunate and lucky that when we put the call out that, graduates from the Lear and Bow Street answered, and we're just all in really. And I know
And was it hard to cut together scenes with six people?
that.
It's a lot of
Um,
actions to
yeah,
match.
so our editor, Dara Parks Kenna, who is incredible. And so Dara's background is in like mostly documentary, but has been wanting to kind of make that leap into narrative for quite a while. And all of Dara's sensibilities sort of like come from narrative filmmaking. And Dara's also queer, which is also great to have another queer person in the cutting room, like just to see those like little nuances, like on certain decisions on like, there's a scene in the kitchen where like Erica and Nicole are like Erica's like draped around Nicole's shoulders, and Colm says, "All right, lezers," and then the two of them pull apart. And I remember me, Dara, and Sherry being like in Dara's house editing, and Sherry's like, oh, there's a nice thing over there that we should like get a shot of, and me and Dara were like, no, because they need to pull apart because of the microaggression towards them, and that like that's not because Sherry did anything wrong, but it's just like that sort of shared understanding of even those invisible movements, like um being important and being represented on screen. But like the original version, like the assembly that Dara cut together for us was 26 minutes. It's now 19 and a half. So like, there was a lot of cutting. Like the bedroom scene was a lot longer. And I think Dara just did an amazing job of those group scenes because, they need to be kind of quick and flowy and like, there's a lot of banter going on, but there's, you have like in the first assembly, like you're obviously following the script lines, but like oftentimes, the guys will be saying something over here, but the camera is actually on. Um, Saoirse checking in on Nicole and asking her if she's all right because that's what Saoirse does. She's the sort of minder of the group. She's the heart of the group, really. And it's actually a really interesting note that Leah gave me after she read the script was like, why am I friends with these people? And so we came up with like a couple of extra moments like that little like check-in of like, Saoirse isn't just the person who's calling them out on their bullshit. She's also the one that they know they can all rely on to be like the truth sayer, and they do really respect her for that, and when you have the guys in that mosh scene, we cut back to Saoirse on the couch actually having a good time, and we realized that like, we're actually going through the motions of this sort of cold social performance of the first hour of the night before the masks come off everyone and they actually are their true selves.
How do you work with actors? What stage do you bring them on board? And would you do much rehearsals to find their roles?
So we had this script done around October, I would like to say, but it probably continued a few redrafts after that. And we started bringing in actors in December and we were filming in January. So it was early December that we started the whole casting process. So in mind, I didn't have anyone in particular at first. I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. It's all the actors are actually almost the same age as me. We're all in our like early 20s. So that was a nice, yet terrifying process of trying to tell someone what to do in like a soft way where it's, they understand the process and yet you're the same age, Some of them are actually older than I am. Um, but it was a really good experience bringing actors on. We had our casting director is Sophie Clark. She did a brilliant job of sending a lot of agencies emails like, who would be interested. And then we were every single day going on a website, please email this actor. We looked at thousands of show reels and went through it every single day, eventually having like castings at least once a week for a month or twice a week. So we had people actually come in. We sat down, recorded them, they did their scenes. And then actually a week, I think, before my producer, Alana McQuaid, was like, you have to choose the casting today. And last minute, gut feeling, you go in and you're like, oh, I just don't have my Annie. And originally, Enya Donahue, who's actually in Sam's film as well, we were going to cast her as Annie. And I was like, oh, she's brilliant. But I don't know, I just see her as such an Orla. Yeah, no one's better for Annie right now. And like I said, time pressure, everything's too much. And randomly, I was like, oh, Megan O'Shaughnessy, she'll play Annie. And everyone's like, what? She's not even a trained actor. Like, you're gonna get her. And I was like, yes, she's a director herself. She doesn't act. She directed How to Skin a Cheetah, and was a year above me in college. And at 10 p.m. at night, I texted her and I was like, hey, I know you said like you're into acting a little bit and you auditioned to like play the ex-girlfriend, but how about you audition to be the lead? And she was like, give me a second, I'll call you. So at like 10 p.m., we're calling each other. And she's like, really? And I was like, yeah, I want you to come in tomorrow if that's okay. And I want you to audition for Annie. And trying to convince everyone, be like, no, I think this is the right move. And they're all saying I'm crazy. And honestly, I couldn't have gotten a better Annie.
She's
She was
amazing.
Yeah, she's so warm and endearing and charming. And like that, you see that nuanced of the flaws, do you know? Like she's that kind of like likable feck up, do you know?
So
Um, oh, okay, sorry. God, I've loads of questions on this, but I can see we're really ticking out of time. I was wondering if you guys had any questions for one another.
Well, I thought I was going to ask about your lead, Julia. I thought super star quality. I thought, and I wondered, now that you say that she's a director, what was it like having other directors on set while you were working? Did that find that helpful? Did you use that as a resource, or did you try and pretend like there's not any other directors on set on the same time?
um, honestly, when I originally decided to cast Megan as the lead, knowing she's a pretty successful director, seeing her work, I'm actually a big fan. Megan knows this. Um, I was stressed. And once we went into our first audition, and she was like, "Can you give me tips? How do you want this played?" And we were like communicating. All of a sudden, it was the best decision I've ever made. Having a director is, I think a lot of people forget, especially in film school, you kind of go in and it's like, oh, you have this title, you're the director, you have to know everything. You have to constantly answer everyone's questions. And it's like, yeah, answer, but you also have a whole crew. You have so many observers. You're not the only one making a short film. These are all making the short film. So sometimes we'd be doing a scene and something wouldn't work. And I'd come up and I was like, oh, Megan, how do you feel about this? Acting wise. And she was like, oh, yeah, like I trust you. Like, let's keep going. And eventually I'd be like, no, but something's off. And she was like, oh, to be honest, like, I feel like a few extras should look at me at this moment. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And all of a sudden the scene was so much better. And yeah, best thing ever of just kind of putting your ego aside and being like, we're doing it for a higher purpose. We're all here to help each other.
That's
Um,
great. It's like a big hive mind, right? The set. Set's great. It's full of geniuses. I always feel like the director has to be the least clever on the day. There's all these geniuses together, and you can
so
pick one to help you with different problems.
actually, for your film, I loved both of your film, Freddie and Sam. Um, honestly, a lot that I would like to learn from you guys, both just so good in the creative aspects, very artistic, but how do you, because I feel like there's both a lot of meanings in both of the films, and you can see it, but kind of how do you say it to the actors, being like this scene is about how like the character is feeling. But then I don't know, on screen I could see it in both of your films so well. Like when the farmer goes back and he's starting to listen to the music, and then the song kind of goes louder and he starts singing of like, oh, I'm just a farmer, like he's a young guy, of trying to communicate the message. What did you do?
That one, um, that basically Sean Duggan was the actor in that one, and I just explained to him who this man was. Um, it's just about explaining what moment in time this is for him, and I think a lot of it's about kind of like just other things, like what kind of music this character would like, what the meaning of all the posters on the wall is, and you can't have a fixed idea when you're working with an actor of exactly who the person is. It has to be kind of an estimation, and then the actor finishes it for you. And I think that was it. It was just conversations. Luckily, we actually were from the same place, so we knew all the same roads and accents um, but it's about you have to throw a lot of things at the canvas before you find the similarity or thing you can talk about with the actor. And it's about just kind of that's what I find of just like finding what makes sense for us in conversation and then trusting them and just nudging them slightly here and there in the actual moment. I don't know how it is for you, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, just like Julie, it sounds like you know your script inside out and just trusting in that and like all the conversations you've had with yourself and your writer about those character intentions, they just come out when you're having conversations with actors and just like trusting your own knowledge. Like even if you don't come from like a traditional directing background, you're an artist who has developed your voice and trust that other people will pick up on that, and you know, take take the words you have and bring them somewhere you even better. Um, and then there's also things like I wrote like a lot of I wrote notes for each of the scenes for the actors to read over, and I was like, use these if they're helpful, but don't be married to them. And then stuff like the dance scenes, like we didn't have a choreographer, but just absolutely adore Una Doherty, so I just send like Fiacra videos of her. Like the dream sequence dance is like sort of inspired by Navy Blue, like the ending of Navy Blue, and really funny. But so there's a video that Una made for Jamie XX, and like just before rehearsals, Fiacra ended up at, I don't know if it was All Together Now or Body and Soul, one of the summer festivals, and Jamie XX was there, and Una and a couple of other dancers were actually dotted around the audience dancing, and Fiacra ended up dancing beside Una, just like coincidentally, like the week before he'd come into rehearsals. So like freaky, spooky things happen as well during filming that I think you gotta lean into and be open to.
Cosmic
Yeah,
connections when you're making a film. It's great. Gotta grab
yeah.
them.
Um, but yeah, I wanted to ask about the music, Freddie, and like, was that in the script or like in the pre-production phase? Because they're so good.
The music, as in the song he sings, or the
Yeah.
music in the background. The song he sings, that was the song that predated the film.
Yeah.
The song was just. I wrote the script with Claire Hoey, who's an amazing screenwriter. My background is kind of music and art, and I, made attempts at writing scripts. But then working with this amazing screenwriter, I was able to say, I have this song, and then putting the song in, and then building around that with the dialogue and stuff. But the song then was workshopped a bit more because the song doesn't have to. The song has so many different moments, but we just managed to just focus it in more. The one line that I didn't want to lose was "You've got some pair of legs on you," which is the opening line, which means nothing, but it's just the kind of thing the farmers I know say to me when I'm running around. So I was kind of keen to keep in as many colloquialisms and actual things people say and things that register as true to me of what people say without feeling restricted that it all had to make perfect sense because I think in real life people say lots of non sequiturs all the time and you kind of pick up what they mean through how they say it and the vibe around it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so true. And okay, so we are coming up almost to the hour now. So I think probably the most important question is, when can people say your film? Like when are your screenings? So I'll start with you, Julia.
So you can watch Skirmish on the short program 1 in Cork International Festival. It's at 6 p.m. I know the venue changed now because the tickets were sold out. So I think there is a few tickets now if anyone wants to come and see it. It's on the website, so 6 p.m. Shorts program 1. And whoever is coming, love to say hi.
Woohoo! And Sam?
So Night Glances is playing in the Arc Cinema in Irish Shorts 4 on Monday the 11th at 1 p.m.
Fabulous. And Freddie?
I'm the same as Julia. So Shorts Program 1, 6 p.m. on Saturday at the Cork Film Festival.
Very exciting. So, Julie and Freddie, is this the first time you've seen it with like a non-filmmaker, like I suppose it is a filmmaker audience probably for the most part, but like with not cast and crew screening? Or have you watched it before?
Once already, the first in Ireland in Cork. So excited, very excited. Quite a lot of the cast and crew are going to be there, I think, and just fun to be at home. To be. I'm from Clare, but Cork's pretty close, so very excited for Saturday.
Grand. And just checking in on the nerves. How are people feeling?
I feel very, yeah. It's like a little baby, isn't it? It's part of you. I'm very precious. I'm very precious about it. I'm trying to get. It's on Letterboxd. I'm preparing myself for middling reviews or bad reviews or good reviews. I'm just thickening my skin. You gotta put it out there and let it be whatever it's going to be.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, look, they're 3 fantastic films. So you'll be very, very proud. People will be delighted.
Thanks, Gemma.
Thank you.
Thanks so much,
And
Gemma.
thanks so much for chatting.
Congrats, Sam and Julia, as well.
You
Oh.
Way
too,
to go.
guys. Lovely chatting with you all.
Thanks so much. And thank you so much for listening in. So we are grateful to Creaghless for sponsoring this episode. So make sure to check out creaghless.ie to learn more about what they do and get started on the platform.